Hello, everyone. This is Rick with the Cyber Pro podcast. We're excited today. We're going to be talking about all things incident response and the importance of that. And with me is one of the best experts in the market that we can talk to about it. So, Tim, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and what do you do?
So I'm Tim Opsitnick. I'm the general counsel for TCDI, and TCDI provides cybersecurity incident response services as well as other ancillary legal services. I'm also here in my capacity as being on the advisory board for OnCall Cyber. And so I'm looking forward to our discussion of incident response today.
Sounds awesome, Tim. Let's kick it right off. How do the various organizations that you belong to and work for and are on the advisory board of OnCall Cyber help customers with incident response?
Yeah, so let's talk specifically about OnCall Cyber. I know that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about today. And OnCall Cyber is the cyber crisis team for small and middle market businesses. It's a comprehensive solution to the challenges that small businesses and middle market businesses face.
Tim, what is the importance of having a well-defined incident response plan in place for cyber incidents, and what are some of the key components of those plans?
Yeah, so a lot to that question. Let me start by saying, look, cyber incidents vary, and they're very complex, often very difficult to explain what happened, how it happened, and so for many organizations, they're often more judged about what they did when they received notice of an incident. So they're more judged about their conduct as part of responding to an incident, and hence the importance for an incident response plan. Time is of the essence when responding to an incident. Every second counts. It's very stressful. Nobody works well in a crisis without preparation. So it's important that decisions are not being made on the fly, and that it increases the likelihood for bad decisions. So a company response to a breach is often analyzed by how they responded. And so a written incident response plan allows an organization to more effectively deal with responding to those crises. So let me answer the second part of the question is, what are some of the things that make an incident response plan effective? And one of the things that go into it. First, best practice is that it's in writing. I often hear people say, well, the IT people have it. And they may well, but it really is most effective to have something in writing. And look, there are templates that are out there available for companies to use, small businesses to use. I think what's important is every organization is different, and you have to take a proportional approach to an incident response plan. For a small business, it may be something that's no more than 3 to 5 pages. For larger organizations, an incident response plan could be 50 pages or more. And so each organization is different. You got to look at yourself. You got to figure out what's going to work for you. It often depends on your IT footprint, the type of data you have, and the complexity of your systems.
Tim, walk us through the typical stages of an incident response process, from detection to containment, maybe eradication and recovery.
Well, so I've already started by talking about preparedness and how important preparation is for an incident response plan, that it's something in writing. So I include that as one of the steps. But there's some sort of trigger. Something has happened, and somebody in IT typically gets a call and says, "Hey, I'm seeing something here, and it's strange." And so there's this initial step of an identification of what may have happened, and types of indicators might be, that particular accounts are being used that hadn't been used. There could be alteration to logs or malicious code or loss of availability of services. There are lots of indicators. And so once it's identified, then that's typically when the incident response plan calls for you to start the containment process. So it's usually there's an assembly of the people who have the various roles in the incident response plan. So the team assembles, and that's typically when the lawyers initially get involved, when both in-house counsel, if there is in-house counsel, your cybersecurity officers, your compliance officers, lots of different people get involved, and they start to brainstorm about what is it we're seeing and what sort of steps should we take. How do we preserve the evidence? How do we contain this? What might we do for containment? So and once things are contained, then the next step really is investigation. Interview people about what they've seen, documentation, analysis of logs, memory, forensic images, data, any data that's out there. Then the next stage is one of eradication. It's try to, fix it, get rid of it. Whatever's out there, let's get rid of it. And you're going to have typically you're going to brainstorm about how that might be done, and you're going to prioritize how to do it. And then next there's a recovery, and in the recovery process, that's where you're remediating any vulnerabilities, you're restoring services, you're restoring data from backups if that's necessary, and you're trying to put confidence back in the systems themselves. And then one of the last steps really is reflection, and that's looking at what happened, how it happened, and what you might do differently.
I love it. Let's talk a little bit about after that cybersecurity incident. What strategies can organizations employ that will help them have an effective and faster recovery of their systems and data?
Well, again, I'm going to get back to this preparation. And a theme through all the questions you've asked, and so preparation is a big part of that. It is virtually inevitable that all organizations will have some sort of an incident, and so best to prepare for it, and that's going to solve a lot of issues. But once it happens, we talked about that debrief. You're going to think about what security controls were affected, and do we need to do more the next time? And were the services easy to restore? Do we had some difficulty restoring services? What did our plans and our process look like? Did our incident response plan go as expected? How might we do it differently the next time? And make changes to the incident response plan and make changes to your controls. Identify the things that you should, start doing and those things that you should stop doing.
I'm going to ask kind of a quick little side question talking about, some of the changes to the incident response plan. I'm curious your thoughts on practicing, or what we call tabletopping, those incident response plans. How effective is that for making sure that you're doing what's right if something were to occur?
Well, it's absolutely necessary to practice your incident response plan. As you said, tabletops are an essential part of it. It's not enough simply to have the response plan sitting on the shelf. You have to practice that process. And the same is true, for example, of when you take backups. It's not enough just to have a backup. You've got to, have practices trying to recover those backups. Incident response plans are the same sort of instance. We recommend that, organizations a few times a year take a look at and go through that process. Call people in who might be involved in it and practice the process. And each time change it up a little. Maybe it's ransomware one time, and maybe it's, a system going offline another time.
Love it. Thank you for that. That's great insight. We've talked a lot about incident response, and you've mentioned a number of times how it requires collaboration between multiple teams, IT, legal, communications. How can organizations foster effective cross-disciplinary teamwork during an incident?
Boy, I hate to do this and come back again to the preparedness and but really the incident response plan has to have defined roles, and it's going to say, who's the captain of the ship, and who are the people that are in there that need to make those decisions, and how are those communications made. There's often tension between, do we notify somebody sooner rather than later, every moment, every hour, you seem to know more about what happened and how it happened. And so there's always a tension for, being able to provide additional information. And so it's really essential to have those roles defined so that those people can work effectively with one another.
Tim, this was amazing. Succinct, to the point. I got it. I love it. Thank you so much for being on the Cyber Pro podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.